So these are the videos where, at the recruiting gym, the coaches answer the members' questions. And so the question I'm going to answer today is, how do I motivate my billing managers to want to bill whilst also managing their team? And I wish there was a really simple answer to this, but it's actually probably the biggest challenge that most recruitment leaders face. How do you get someone that hit their target month in, month out, and how do you get them to replicate that with the people that report into them on a day-to-day basis? And the challenge is often not so much around how do you get them to still bill, it's how do you motivate them to actually want to bill. And so here's a few things that you want to think about. The first thing I want you to think about is, well, what are the motivations of the manager wanting to be a manager? Sometimes managers want to become managers because they want a route out of billing. And that's often the worst place for a manager to find themselves in, because the reality is they've probably lost the love for actually doing the job. And so moving them into a non-billing role, they maybe have the capacity for that. But the reality is that most managers that have 2 or 3 people reporting to them still need to bill. And so if you've got a manager that's actually fallen out of love with billing, the problem isn't with their management skill, it's actually getting them to be excited about recruitment again. But assuming they are motivated about being a manager and they still want to bill, what are some of the things that you need to look at? Well, the first thing you need to look at is, what is their capacity to be a manager? And what I mean by that is, how much free time mentally do they actually have? If you've got a consultant that is already inconsistent at hitting their target and then you layer in more responsibility, the likelihood is they're not going to be a very good manager, and their billings are definitely not going to support or stand up to what you want. And so the technique I often use with managers is I ask managers to give their billing managers a score between 0 and 10 in terms of how easily do they actually hit their target on a month-to-month basis. If they hit their target super easily with very little effort, you give them a 10. And if they actually find it quite difficult, you might give them a 4 or a 5. And once you've done that, what you're then able to do is think, well, what potential do I actually have to give them? Now, what I like to do is give everyone in a manager's team points. And so if you've got a rookie in someone's team, they probably take 3 points worth of effort. Someone that averages 10 grand and looks after themselves is probably 2 points. Someone that's 15 grand month in, month out is probably 1 point of effort. And so if you ranked me as a 6 for a manager, I've got 6 points available for my management, which means I can probably look after 2 rookies, or I can look after 3 consultants that are averaging somewhere between 8 and 10 grand. But if you take a manager that's a 4 or 5 and give them 2 rookies, you know they're stretched. And what hopefully this technique will do is give you a way of assessing, is it actually their ability as a manager that's the issue, or is it actually their capacity to balance the 2 that's the issue? Because remember, you promoted billing managers to be billing managers probably because they were good at billing. And what we forget is a lot of our self-esteem as a recruiter comes from how successful and how consistent we bill on a month-to-month basis. And so when you promote a manager, a top biller to be a manager, and they stop billing well, irrespective of how well their team are doing, their pride is going to suffer, and that's going to cause them to not maybe enjoy being a billing manager as much as possible. So in summary, let's just recap. The first thing is, why do your managers want to be a manager? If they're not excited about billing and managing, the likelihood is they're in the wrong job. The second one is, what capacity do they actually have to manage? If they're struggling to hit their target, don't give them more than 1 person, because the likelihood is they don't have capacity to do that because they need the extra time in order to bill. If they're hitting their target month in, month out with virtually 0 effort, you could probably give them 3 rookies or maybe even 5 experienced consultants, because the amount of time those individuals are going to take will mean, at worst, the manager is still going to bill 2/3 or 3/4 of their target, and that keeps their self-esteem up, and more importantly keeps your bottom line up too. So hopefully this answers your question, and keep them coming, and we look forward to seeing you in the recruiting gym.